Welcome to the Calder Farmstead, your place for news, analysis, and shenanigans from the American Hockey League.
Face off one by the Condors, Jones, top, another point, Benson, and the slot, a shot is gone! Josh Perry, in double,
left point, long drive, save, Kinetic, what a stop by Matisse with the left pad! Oh, there was a scramble in front of the net, denied was Matt Schicker by a miraculous piece of net binding by Matisse Kinetic.
D-laner from the red line sends it in, Hofer into his net, he stops it, Hofer looking, Hofer firing toward the empty net, he scores! Are you kidding me? Joel Hofer, a goalie goal in the Calder Cup Playoffs!
And now, with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out. Right side with Fair. Brooks Light cutting to the net. Fair and let's go! He scored! He scored! It's over!
Hello from Brownsville, Tennessee.
And Chicago, Illinois.
Welcome to the Calder Farmstead Podcast, episode number 141 for Thursday, May 25th, 2023. If you were hoping for a podcast featuring tips for quality hay baling, we are not going to be much help. This is an American Hockey League podcast. My name is Sean O'Brien from StatsTrack and the AHL's only league-wide analytics guy.
And I'm Sarah Avampato from Full Press Hockey and SB Nation's Canes Country.
And as always, we want to thank you for tuning in with us. And if you are new to hearing us talk about hockey, we're going to recap the western side of the third round of the Calder Cup Playoffs pretty quickly. Then we're going to preview the Western Conference Finals of the AHL's 2023 Calder Cup Playoffs. We both watch a lot of AHL games. We're going to talk about what we see when we watch the film, as well as use some advanced stats to help us break it down. If that's new to you, you may want to head over to our YouTube channel or podcast feed, wherever you're listening to us from, and check out episode 0. It's a short primer on some of the stats we're going to be talking about, as well as how we view what's important on the ice. So if you're new to some of the more advanced hockey stats terms like PDO or the point shares model, or newer hockey terms like controlled zone entries or Royal Road, go check that out so you better be able to pick up what we're putting down. I promise it's not that nerdy or technical. It's only 20 minutes. And let's be honest, you wasted 20 minutes listening to Andrew Shaw's last interview. You'll never get that time back. So next time, why not spend a little more time with us talking hockey? Sarah, once again, we are just going to get right into it. There is league-wide stuff happening, but nothing that's so pressing that we must talk about it now. So let's get right into the series recaps here. Let's talk about what happened in this Texas Stars Milwaukee Admirals best of 5 series. In the end, Milwaukee wins a back-and-forth series 3-2. Game 1 saw Milwaukee's power play do all the heavy lifting as they went 2 for 4. Both goals in the power play, they won 2-1. Game 2 saw Texas get out to a 3-1 lead in the third, only to have Milwaukee erase it in a little over a minute. But an Anthony Angelo high stick set up a Maverick Bork strike on the power play, and Rhett Gardner added an empty net for good measure for Texas to even up the series at 1 apiece. Game 3 saw both teams' ability to strike quick as Texas took a 3-2 lead early in the third off of goals 28 seconds apart. Milwaukee would answer back a little less quickly with goals 5 minutes and 33 seconds apart, including a game winner from Isaac Radcliffe, who is a healthy scratch at times this postseason for the game winner with 1:01 left in the game. Game 4 saw Texas blow another third period lead as Austin Rushoff tied the game with 6:47 left in the third period. Texas forced a Game 5 with a snipe from Oscar Back that beat Askarov in double overtime. But in Game 5, Milwaukee dominated the first period, got out to a 4-0 lead, shots 14-9. By the time Texas showed up to play in the second period, it was too late. Milwaukee was outshot 30-11 in the second and third periods, but Askarov, for the most part, was nearly perfect down the stretch, except for the goal Nick Camano scored where he very much lost his mind and tried to win a foot race to a puck and got burned for an easy tap-in. In the words of the philosopher Dangle, if you're a goaltender, tend the goal. And that is not a personal philosophy of one Yaroslav Askarov. So, Sarah, we talked a lot about this series. We got some stuff right. We got some stuff wrong. Let's start with the bad stuff. What did we screw up here?
All right. So one of the major things that we were looking for was the line of Tomasino, Angelo, and Schneider getting it going. That did not happen. That trio combined for 4 total assists over the series. Tomasino had no goals, 2 assists, 5 total shots. Angelo, no goals, 1 assist, 5 total shots. Schneider, no goals, 1 assist, 6 total shots. He also was out for games 3 through 5. So those guys, the depth of the Milwaukee Admirals just did not show up there. Also, our favorite goaltender for heartburn, Askarov very much did not stay inside the lines that we desperately asked him to stay inside. The mustache man continues to give heart palpitations to 2 major cities, his teammate, his coaching staff, me, on a regular basis. That shorthanded goal that Camano scored in Game 5, like, you're just watching it and you're just like, why? Like, why is this happening? Like, why have you don't go there. You're a goaltender. Please stay where you stay in your home. Stay in your home. It's like the Simpsons Millhouse, like, tied to the net. Like, that's, please. So he did not chill in this series. Overall, his wild card play cost the Admirals 3 goals. Fortunately, that wasn't enough to sink them, but, like, not great. You don't want your goaltender putting you in that position. What did we get right? Well, shenanigans were limited. We wanted less shenanigans, and we got it. No, Milwaukee didn't play the cleanest, most flawless games, but they're just about even with Texas in terms of penalties taken. Over the series, Milwaukee had 16 total infractions. Texas scored twice on the power play. They also scored 1 shorthanded for fun. Because why not? Texas had 12 total infractions. So, you'd like to see maybe fewer, but ultimately they were, been mostly evened out. Texas also did not continue to get contributions up and down the lineup. The bottom 6 did their part. They had 8 goals in 5 games. The top 6, it's a hodgepodge. Barber, Damiani, Bork, Caro, Blumel, Reedy, and or Stranges just scored 2 goals. 1 from Damiani, 1 from Bork. That wasn't going to be enough to get it done. And in a series where Texas lost 2 1-goal games, that missing production really mattered. Also, Texas didn't slow down the Admirals in the neutral zone, and that burned them bad. The Admirals can create offense off the cycle, but they continue to be more of a rush-based team. Texas ended up letting them fly through the neutral zone time and time again. Courtesy of friend of the show, Eric Janae over at Penalty Box Radio, 7 of the Admirals' 12 5-on-5 goals came off of rush chances. Now, if Texas would have been able to bring that number down to even 5, they might have won the series. Also, our X factor of Seattle, that played in here. The Dallas Stars eliminating the Kraken meant that the Texas Stars didn't get some of their biggest reinforcements back. Sure, maybe getting Harley and Olofsson back wouldn't have changed the outcome of here, but you have to think that they would have been more competitive with those 2 guys in the lineup for the final games of the series, especially Game 5. Before we move on, close it out, Sean, what are your final thoughts on this series?
I thought the best team won here. I will say congrats to Texas on what looked like a top-notch atmosphere inside the HEB Center. It looked lively, it looked loud, it looked full. An atmosphere befitting a team in the playoffs. The UW Panther Arena looked dead in what looked like half the lower bowl empty on a Saturday night for a playoff game. That's not a good look for Milwaukee. But I also wonder if this wasn't the last run for a lot of these kind of longer tenured Texas stars. Rhett Gardner, Riley Damiani, Tanner Caro, Nick Camano, Curtis McKenzie, Riley Tufte, Alex Petrovic, Ben Gleason, Ryan Shea, Gerard Rosberg, all of guys who've spent varying degrees of seasons with Texas, but all of them have spent there at least 2 seasons. I think Petrovic is the least tenured member. All of them are not under contract for next season, and 3 of them are over the age of 30. So I think there is a chance that we see the end of some of their time in Texas. I think it's pretty clear Damiani is going to get re-signed. Tufte maybe, but like Curtis McKenzie may call it a career. And that was at least a thought that crossed several people's mind as he was giving his end of season or, final media interview. But, I could see Alex Petrovic going for greener grass somewhere else or even Europe. A lot of other guys, I mean, it's hard to know at this point, but there's a very real possibility that a lot of those guys will not be returning next season. Sarah, any closing thoughts on Texas?
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't the series that I thought I would see from Texas. I mean, particularly Game 5, just the total failure of Texas to show up at the beginning of the game. By the time they even kind of looked like they were clicking, it was too late. Like the damage was done already. And I think you would have wanted to see, it's not like Milwaukee was so overwhelming to them. The chances were there. They just couldn't convert. And so I feel like you watched that last game and you're like, yeah, no, this is it. It's done. It's not, you're not coming back.
Yeah, I and like the goals that Milwaukee scored were, I mean, they were high danger chances, but they were bad turnovers that Texas made in their own zone or in the neutral zone by and large. They were mostly self-inflicted wounds. And I remember after the third one when it was like, do I need to watch the rest of this game? Like, I'm going to, but at the same point, it was like, this very much feels, once the fourth one went, I'm like, okay, this is over.
Yeah.
Like that's, nobody is coming back from a 4-0 hole in the first period of a decisive game. Like, especially against the Admirals with that roster and Carl Taylor behind the bench. Nope.
Yeah.
Lock it up. But a good season from Texas. They were my dark horse in the very beginning to win the division. So I'm happy that they made me look smart there. A fan base I've enjoyed interacting with. They're not as online as several of the others, but I think that's probably to their benefit in some ways. But I've enjoyed my time talking about Texas and hearing from their fans. So hopefully they, have a good season next season as well and continue to be a place that wins. I mean, that is the title of the book about them right now, We Win Here, which I will be picking up in the offseason and giving a browse through. So, I mean, well, maybe. I'm definitely going to buy it, but there are 3 hockey books that I've purchased already that are just collecting dust right now that I intend to read, plus 2 books that I have to before August because they're birth partner books. So those take priority. But other than that, I will definitely be purchasing. Hopefully I will get around to reading it. I am horrible about reading books. I don't know. Let's move on here. Let's talk about the Pacific Division Finals. And I guess we can call this an upset at the end, but we'll get there. Tell me what happened between Coachella and Calgary.
So Coachella Valley ended up winning a hotly contested back and forth series in 5 games. 4 of the games were 1-goal games. 2 of those games went to overtime. 1 of those games went to 3 overtimes. So it was that kind of series. Game 1, there were 5 total goals in the first period, all within the first 8 minutes and 19 seconds of action. There were 4 total goals in the second period, all within the first 9 minutes and 11 seconds of action. This was just like goal bonanza. There was no feeling each other out. There was no, let's just play cautious. Like, no, it was a track meet and it was just goal bonanza. Coachella Valley jumped out to an early lead and just never relinquished it. Great work, especially from Joey DeCord in the third period. Calgary outshot Coachella Valley 12-6 and no goals. Game 2 flipped the script of Game 1. Calgary came to play this time. In the first period, they nearly doubled Coachella Valley up in shots, 13-7. They still didn't get on the board until a power play with 2 minutes left in the first period, and then Coachella Valley scored on the next shift. Why not? Coachella Valley's power play, or lack thereof, was a big factor in this game. In a 3-2 game, they went 0-4 on the man advantage. So that 1-goal game, a couple power play goals would have changed that one. Game 3, here's the fun one, triple overtime chaos time. This was ultimately the 13th longest AHL game in history, which now means that Andrew Podorowski has the distinction of having played in the 13th longest game and the longest ever AHL game. He was part of that 5 overtime game between Lehigh Valley and Charlotte back in 2018. So I think he's had his fill of mega overtime games in his career. In that game, Calgary took the lead off of 2 first-period goals. Coachella Valley battled back with a goal in the second and in the third. The last goal was just at 2:59 into the third, and so then it was just scoreless grind from there on out. Really, this game, phenomenal work from both goaltenders who played nearly 2 full hockey games. You talk a lot about like, oh, this defenseman played an hour, this forward played, however long. The goaltenders are on for every minute of the game. And that is a lot for them. In regulation, the shots were 27 for Calgary, 31 for Coachella Valley. In overtime, the two and change periods of overtime that were played, Calgary 35 shots, Coachella Valley 20. So that was not even like a chill overtime. That was just, we're going to play another game. The game-winning goal ultimately came off of a shot from Riker Evans. There was a perfect screen from Max McCormick. You could not draw this up any better. He just took away Justin Wolf's ability to even see Evans' shot coming. A real bummer of a way to lose a game, but there was nothing that Dustin Wolf could have done differently on that play. Overall, this game really felt like a turning point in the series. Like, sure, once you get to overtime, it's basically a coin flip. But I feel like this had to be demoralizing to Calgary to fight through 3 overtimes, including an overtime period where you outshot the opponent 19-3 in overtime, and you still come away with a loss. Game 4 was Dustin Wolf being Dustin Wolf again. He looked impeccable in a 1-0 win, just absolutely shut down the Firebirds. Calgary dominated the game overall. They outshot Coachella Valley 32-27, including a 16-9 shot lead in the first period. The only goal came on a Wranglers power play in the second period. Calgary first off got Joey Decourt moving from side to side. 3 of the 4 Coachella Valley penalty killers were just crowded in front of him. A little circle right in front of the goaltender. Alexander True was up high midway between Dryden Hunt, who set up the play, and Cole Schwint, who scored. True wasn't really placed correctly to deal with either of them. Puck gets to the goal scorer, goes in the net. Game 5, instead of being that escalated quickly kind of game, that was one where it was like the frog in the pot that doesn't realize it's boiling, and then suddenly there's just 1,000 goals. The first period, there was 1 goal from Jesper Froden. The second period, 2 Calgary goals, 1 Coachella Valley goal, tie game. Period 3, all hell breaks loose. There were 3 goals on each team, so 6 goals total if you're, I can do a little bit of math, 6 goals. 3 of those goals occurred within a 1 minute, 10 second span. 2 of them occurred within 1 minute, 11 second span. In total, 5 goals were scored in around 7 minutes. So this was just another goal bonanza. And overtime could not have been scripted any better. Andrew Podorowski scored the game winner. Of course, he returned to the series midway through. It was a great cross-ice pass from Jesper Froden, who also returned to the series halfway through. Calgary just looked kind of sloppy on the play. They were kind of scrambling to get in place, keep up with the action, and there's your series winner right there. So that's what happened. Sean, what did we miss in this series?
Well, we missed Seattle getting knocked out and sending down Cartier and Frodin as reinforcements. It's funny that we've had Seattle, the Kraken, be X factors in 2 series, and not this one. Wasn't even a thought. Just a blind spot in our analysis there. I'm gonna count that as an L. I don't think Cartier and Frodin on their own flip the percentile probability from the model, but it obviously gets very, very close. Andrew Podorowski, though, that matters. That addition changes who is the favorite in this series midway through. If you would have told me that Cartier, Frodin, and Podorowski would come in for Coachella Valley and play 2 full games, it'd have been so Coachella Valley won. That's more fire. Don't get me wrong, Calgary is very, very good. But when you add, a guy who's been who has won a scoring title, finished second for another scoring title, and has been just one of the best players in the AHL the last 4 full seasons. Yeah, that matters. That changes the complexion of the series. Also, I didn't even know that it was possible he was coming back. All the reports that I read were Andrew Podorowski hurt something in the lower body. That's it. We'll see him in training camp next year. He'll be back in time. And then I just see a picture from warmups that's titled in a message to me, "This is not a drill." And at first I was I felt like I was doing a thing of Where's Waldo. I'm I don't understand the context of this picture, because that's all it said. It was a picture of warmups and said, "This is not a drill." And I'm looking through it, this accidental renaissance. And I'm oh, what? I didn't even know that. Yeah. So Andrew Podorowski clearly wasn't even on our radar, nor do I imagine he was on many people's radar. So we missed that completely. Podorowski played 3 games, 11 shots on goal, scores the overtime game winner in Game 5. Plus, he has all the intangibles. He's respected in that room. He's been working insanely hard to get back from this injury. Veteran voice in the locker room, huge presence on the ice as well. Ferdian played 2 games, had a goal, 2 assists, scored the opening goal in Game 5, primary assist on Podorowski's overtime winner. Cartier played all 5 games in the series, 2 goals and an assist, 16 shots on goal. One of the other things that we missed, we talked about the importance of Calgary winning the first period. That was a big key for us. And Calgary either won the first period on the scoreboard or by being clearly the better team with the better chances in 3 of those 5 games. So a majority, but they still did not win. That wasn't enough for them to win the series. And shockingly, the 2 first periods the Firebirds won were games the Calgary lost, including Game 5. Still, 3 out of 5 checks the box. That should have been an advantage for Calgary, and they did not win. Also, Coachella Valley did not stop Phillips and Pelletier. The 2 combined for 10 points in 5 games and basically ran wild once again. And yet that wasn't enough for Calgary. Calgary also got more from Walker Dewar and Connor Zary. They combined for 6 points in the series. While not spectacular and jaw-dropping, we needed them to show up and be counted, and they were. 6 points in 5 games between the 2 of them is being counted. Mitch McLean gets a pass because he only played in Game 5, so the fact that he was not there, was injured for most of the series, I can't count that against him. Still, they got on the score. That group got on the score sheet, or 2 of the 3 of them did that played, got on the score sheet. That wasn't enough. But we got stuff right. I think one of the reasons that all of those didn't matter is because Dustin Wolf needed to be Dustin Wolf, and he was in some of the games, and then in 2 of them, basically the bookends, he was not great. And ultimately, when you're playing the number 2 team in the AHL's regular season, being not great in 2 of 3 is probably not going to be good enough. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't. He was phenomenal in Game 4, but struggled in Games 1 and 5. And if you would have told me before in the series that he'd have given up 5 or more goals in 2 separate games, I would have thought you were, a time traveler from another timeline. That's not how. Dustin Wolf in the regular season, a .932 save percentage. In the playoffs, .912. 912 ain't bad, but you aren't winning playoff series with a .912. Mm-hmm. That ain't a thing. Unless you're Rochester in the North Division, in which case, made-up goaltending. But, I don't want to say that Calgary lost because of Dustin Wolf. That's not true. But also, I think you have to wonder if Dustin Wolf hasn't just run out of gas. Over the past 2 seasons, he's played 125 games regular season and playoffs. He's played the most minutes in the AHL in the regular season. It's not even close this year. Played 3,239. The next closest is Skarov with 2,851. That's a difference of about 6.5 games worth of play. In 21-22, he was second in minutes behind only, again, Connor Ingram, the Milwaukee starting goaltender, who had 3,195. So he's been one of the busiest goalies in the AHL the last 2 seasons. And yeah, he's young and, recovers well and does his 4-foot ninja jump at the beginning of games. But at some point too, you have to wonder if the mileage has started to add up just a little bit too much for Dustin Wolf, especially after a 3 overtime game where he basically played 6 games. I wonder if that wasn't at least a contributing factor here. Also, one of the things that we got right was winning on the road. We said Coachella Valley needed to come into the Saddle Dome and steal a game because Calgary would close them out in Coachella Valley if they let Calgary get up 2-0. That's what Calgary had done in every playoff series they had ever won. They started in their home arena, they got up 2-0, and they closed on the road. Coachella took down Game 1, closed the series. That's a W for us. Sarah, any closing thoughts on the series here before I talk about my thoughts?
So this series, obviously I picked Calgary to win. I knew it was going to be close, but they were still my choice here. And after I made that pick, I got some messages from someone who was like, well, what about if this happens? What about if this happens? What about if Podorowski comes back? And I'm like, listen, I'm making my decision based on the information that I have at the time. The information that I had at the time did not include those guys. I had a suspicion that Podorowski was going to come back. The timeline that the team gave initially put him in the range that he could come back if they made a deep run, but you still always kind of wonder, like, will he? Is it really worth it to, like, if your team is clicking and you're playing well and you've made it that far, do you really want to jam someone in who hasn't played in 4 months? But it's Andrew Podorowski. Of course he came back. And I know he very much, having covered him when he played in Chicago, like, he is one of those guys who I feel like as soon as the team knew he was coming back, it was just like, we're going to rally around him and get him, get wins for him too. But yeah, this series did not go how I thought it would, but some things changed in the course of the series that we did not anticipate.
So what you're saying is Andrew Podorowski was like the water boy coming in for the Mud Dogs in the bowl game.
Yes.
Do you remember that time Andrew Podorowski came in at halftime and the Mud Dogs won the bowl? Yeah.
Get him a shirt.
So for me here, 2 quick thoughts. One, friend of the podcast, Jacob Stoller, tweeted out a very interesting hypothetical before Game 4. Jesper Frodin had to pass through waivers to be assigned to Coachella Valley. Why didn't Calgary claim him so he couldn't play for the Firebirds? For a guy who had a primary assist on the series clinching goal, that sure looks like it would have been worthwhile. Would it have pissed off a lot of people in NHL front offices? Oh, it would have. That would have been part of the joy. And that will definitely dissuade people from doing it. It's like, oh, that's kind of you don't do that. Like, you don't claim a player for literally only a reason of blocking. And it's like, are you trying to best serve your players and your team, or are you trying to play nice with 31 other teams? Like me, I pulled the trigger all day, every day, and I basically do the thug life meme, like glasses coming down, Tupac playing as I do it. But I can also see one honest reason why Calgary didn't here. As currently, they don't have a GM. And there's a chance, whatever 3 toddlers in a trench coat that's the acting GM in Calgary didn't have the authority to make the move here. I mean, that makes sense, but it also makes me sad, especially as Calgary claiming Jesper Frodin to block is something that the memes alone would have made this waiver claim an absolute goldmine for us. Alas, missed opportunities. And speaking of missed opportunities, we're just going to put this on the screen up here as I talk about Calgary giving up home ice advantage again. This has been a pattern for them the last 2 seasons in the AHL. And I just don't get it. But when they were in Stockton, I thought this was a way of them cutting losses, because Stockton was a team hemorrhaging money because they didn't draw a crowd for a number of reasons we won't get into here. One of which was they didn't try to. But fewer home playoff games meant losing less money because the cost of you to rent the stadium for that game greatly exceeds your ticket and concession and whatever revenue that you bring in, because like 900 people went to those games in Stockton. So I understand from a money perspective of just like stopping the hemorrhaging of cash flow. But the Wranglers cannot possibly have that same claim here. Their 4 home playoff games were the 11th, 1st, 5th, and 14th biggest crowds of the season. Calgary Sports and Entertainment, the owner of the Wranglers, are also the operators of the Saddle Dome. They don't own it, but they are the operators of it. So the rent situation for the Wranglers should be a favorable one, especially one in which a crowd of 4,738 people has to at least be in the break-even neighborhood. That was their smallest playoff crowd and well above their like season average for drawing a crowd. Again, as we discussed, it's not travel. No matter what, no matter the schedule you played out for the series for a 2 and 3, you had to fly to Coachella Valley or bus, I suppose that's possible. You had to travel there however you did, and you had to come back no matter what, whether that was for games 1 and 2 or 2, 3, or 3, 4, and 5. You had to fly there and fly back. Unless, of course, I guess you were going to be extra crappy. And if you lost in game, in Coachella Valley, just tell your players, all right, find your own way home. Like, I suppose that's a thing you could do, but it would be incredibly embarrassing. I'd imagine that would get out. But, like, if that's the case, it's not arena availability either. When the series started, dates for games 3, 4, and 5 were open in the Saddle Dome. They could have been there. It's just unfathomable to me in a series where the best team in the regular season played the second best team in the regular season in a playoff series that came down to a single goal in overtime, and that Calgary surrendering home ice didn't make a difference, and them doing so wasn't a voluntary and self-inflicted wound that potentially costed them a Calder Cup here. More so, that the Calgary Brass haven't ever been pressed as to why they did this, why they've been doing this. If I were a Calgary Wranglers or a Flames fan or a beat reporter in that, jurisdiction, I'd be demanding answers from the front office. You just possibly cost your team a Calder Cup, and you've been doing this like, we could give away home ice advantage. Look at our road record. Get out. Get out. No, that's hot garbage. But if that's the hot garbage answer you're going to give me, you need to come out in front of the microphone and do it. The fact that they're just going to like, oh yeah, we're not going to say anything about why. Unacceptable. And if I were a fan or a season ticket holder or a media person, I'd be pressing them on this. Why? This makes no sense, and it probably cost you this series. 2 more quick thoughts before we go here. Matthew Phillips is an unrestricted free agent this offseason, and I think there's a very good chance that he tests the market here. If not more money, a team that's willing to let him come into camp and have a legit shot at making their NHL roster. I can't imagine him needing the entire Flames fan base to demand a call-up in order for him to get NHL time is something he forgets. And yes, I know, new coach, new GM going into next season, but still, like, that's a frustrating experience. And unless that new brass comes in and promises me a new day, and I believe them, I'm going to at least see what the grass looks like on the other side. Last thought here on Calgary is that Dustin Wolf is in a weird spot here. Everyone seems to think that he's done in the AHL as it stands right now, and he has another year on his ELC, so it's not a contract problem. But Jacob Markstrom isn't going anywhere, and Dan Vladar's new 2-year extension was signed in October. Yes, signed by Brad Treliving, who's no longer there. And yeah, the Flames can trade him, but he's a goalie with 2 consecutive seasons of negative goals saved above expected on a $2.2 million per year contract. That's not a goalie that teams are lining up to make a hockey trade for. And I can't imagine that Calgary is adding like a draft pick sweetener to that deal just so Dustin Wolf can be the backup for the Flames. If you're Dustin Wolf, you've done everything you can as a goalie to prove yourself ready for the NHL, and you've done it for a $70,000 a year salary. At what point do you start thinking the grass is greener somewhere else? We're going to take a break here. After the break, we will get to the preview of the conference finals in the West. If you're just here for this, for a Western Conference Series recap, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Links, also please make sure that you check us out on social media. Links to our social media and more can be found in our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We're going to run some ads, pay some bills. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. We are back from break. We are getting into the only series we have left to cover that is starting tonight. Sarah, talk to us about the Coachella Valley Firebirds and the Milwaukee Admirals.
All right, so this series kicks off tonight in Coachella Valley, game at 7 p.m. local time. Game 2 is Saturday, May 27th, also in Coachella Valley, 7 p.m. Game 3, we've got some, Memorial Day hijinks, Monday, May 29th in Milwaukee at 6 p.m. Thursday, June 1st is Game 4 in Milwaukee at 7 p.m. Game 5, if necessary, Saturday, June 3rd in Milwaukee at 6 p.m. And hey, this is where the series get longer now because we've got a Game 6 Monday, June 5th back in Coachella Valley at 7 p.m. Game 7 Wednesday, June 7th in Coachella Valley, also at 7 p.m. So how did the Coachella Valley Firebirds get here? Their playoff journey so far, they beat Tucson in 3 games in the first round, beat Colorado in 5 games in the second round, and as we just talked about, beat Calgary in 5 games in the division finals. Their season record this year was 48-24, good for second in the AHL. The net power play is 17.8% in the regular season, 12th in the league. In the playoffs, they're 19.6%, 10th out of 23 playoff teams. The net penalty kill is 86.2%, 6th in the league in the regular season, and in the playoffs, 86.1%. Look at that consistency, 7th out of 23 playoff teams. So if the Firebirds win, it's going to be because the power play finds its way again. Headed into the Pacific Division Finals, Coachella's power play was clicking at a 21.8% net power play rate. They went 2 for 3 in game number 1, great. And then they went 1 for 15 through the rest of the series. Less great. The Wranglers, as we mentioned in the series preview, had a penalty kill that was one of the mainstays of their success, and after game 1, it very much did its job. However, there's basically absolutely no way that 2 power play units that are as well schemed and loaded with talent should be anything short of dominant. Power play unit 1, they've got Podorowski, McCormick, Evans, Cartier, and Lind. Power play unit 2, they've got True, Froden, Hughes, Schultz, and Rafferty. Yeah, 3 of those players are being reinserted back into the lineup for the Firebirds, and yeah, teammate chemistry is a weird, fleeting kind of thing. But they need to get it together, as Milwaukee isn't a team that's just happy to be here. It's going to take the Firebirds everything they have to get to the Calder Cup Finals, including a power play that's effective. Also, with apologies for sounding like a walking hockey cliche, they need to crash the net. This is a thing that could also be subtitled as Frustrate Yaroslav Askarov. The Firebirds have a lot of gifted scorers, but one drawback is that they don't always have a lot of guys who are going to drive the net. Obviously, we saw Max McCormick do the thing where he takes away the goalie's eyes, was able to screen a goal. Podorowski back is big for this, as he's a guy who's always kind of sniffing around the front of the net looking for loose pucks. But this team needs to resist the urge to always be looking for that perfectly placed shot. Doesn't matter how, just matters how many, right? Like, that's how it works. Askarov is a solid goaltender, but he has weaknesses. He's got a temper. He takes big risks sometimes, and Coachella Valley would do well to exploit the mistakes that he makes. No, he probably isn't going to gift wrap a goal for them like he did in Game 5 against Texas, but then again, maybe he could. Askarov has also shown some weaknesses, in the armor. One is that he's been beaten clean, high glove on a few occasions. The other is rebound control on shots going low blocker. He kicks out a fair number of juicy rebounds on those shots, and a few end up in the back of the net. I also wouldn't be afraid of playing dump and chase and just directing dump-ins that he's going to be more likely to play. He loves to come out of his net. He loves to roam. He loves to play the puck. And it's cost the Admirals a few times, as he doesn't always heed the advice that we talked about before from the philosopher Dangle. He doesn't always tend the goal. That is in the job description as goaltender. But, okay. Also, if they win, it's because they don't let Milwaukee build speed through the neutral zone. Manitoba did, went poorly for them. Texas did, went poorly for them. Milwaukee is capable of generating offense off the cycle, but they haven't had to win games off of it in the postseason. Their ability to attack off the rush is dangerous, and the Firebirds need to learn from the failures of those teams that came before them. Thankfully, they're blessed with defensemen who are more adept at defending the blue line, but forechecking and neutral zone play is a full team aspect of hockey. As a defenseman, you can't defend your blue line against an odd-man rush with a head of steam. You're going to get turnstile, and you're going to be on the Sports Center's not top 10. So Coachella Valley needs to succeed at forcing the Admirals to primarily play dump and chase, or they're going to end up like Texas and Manitoba, and they're going to be watching the Calder Cup Finals from a bar. That is the story on the Firebirds. Take us through the Milwaukee Admirals. How'd they get here?
Their playoff journey to this point, well, they got a first-round bye. Then they beat the Manitoba Moose in 5 games in the second round. Then they beat the Texas Stars in 5 games in the division finals. Their season record was 41-31. That's good for 8th in the AHL. Their net power play in the regular season was 21.9%. That was the best power play in the AHL. Their net power play in the playoffs, 21.9%. 7th of 23 teams in the playoffs. Their penalty kill was 87% in the regular season. That was good for 5th in the AHL. Their net penalty kill in the playoffs, 84.4%. That is 10th out of 23 playoff teams. If the Milwaukee Admirals win, it's because Phil Tomasino gets it together. He has 3 assists over 10 games, 1 in the series against Manitoba, 2 against Texas. In his AHL career, he's averaging 2.7 shots per game. In this playoffs, averaging 1.2. He has a negative point shares value in the model for the postseason so far. And I think one of the biggest things about him is he has not been able to get inside. He gets the puck in the neutral zone on the wing and then just looks like a bubble hockey player, just on a stick, straight up and down the boards. You can make some offense from there. In the AHL, TJ Tynan's made a career from struggling to get to the inside, but he's able to feather passes over defenders' sticks to make those plays. Tomasino, though, like against good teams defensively like Texas and now Coachella Valley, you're going to have to get inside. Their defensemen are too skilled because many of them belong in the NHL, or at least as a 7th defenseman, to allow somebody to just kind of burn them on the outside or play from the perimeter and be successful. Tomasino has also struggled to use teammates and has instead tried and failed multiple times to take defenders on one-on-one on rush chances. Tomasino needs to attack the dot lane and start to work inside, as well as utilizing teammates in space better if he wants to be more effective. And point blank, he needs to be. Coachella Valley just snapped the Calgary Thanos inevitability of a Western Conference final appearance right out of existence. Milwaukee can absolutely not afford for him to be absent from the score sheet in a 3rd straight series, or the next score sheet Tomasino is going to be on is one filled out with a pencil by a caddy. If the Milwaukee Admirals win, it's going to be because Yaroslav Askarov stays inside the lines when he colors. We talked about Askarov at the top of the show. We've talked about him in the Coachella Valley side of the preview. Shockingly, the goaltender with the most flair and personality of, I think, anyone in professional hockey at this point continues to be a talking point because, he's a major factor for the Admirals. You never know which version of Askarov you're going to get in a game. And against the Firebirds, a team with a lot of puns sort of intended, firepower, he needs to be good Askarov and not the "where's my heartburn medication? Oh my God, Asky, no!" That version of Askarov is going to not do well. Yeah, and he's a young goalie and plays with passion and already clearly a fan favorite in the Milwaukee crowd. And there are reasons for that, but he has to pick his moments better. It's okay to be all of those things. It's okay to embrace a style that is way more chaotic than what we see out of a lot of goaltenders coming out of North America, who are a lot more structured and technical. And I don't want to see that character and personality beaten out of him, but he needs to make sure he's not costing the team with some of his choices. By my viewing, his penchant for playing the wild card cost the Admirals 3 goals over the course of the series against Texas. It ultimately didn't cost them the series, but it very likely made the series closer than it needed to be. He's very lucky that the shorthanded goal against Texas, where he charged out aggressively, misplayed it, and then threw his stick in a last effort to prevent a goal, didn't end up changing the momentum of the game. It's also at least marginally lucky he didn't end up taking a penalty for it. The penalty book, as the play commenced, would have been washed out with the goal. But still, that was a moment in which he could have taken a second penalty for not just throwing the stick, but the blocker as well. I can't imagine a world in which a referee calls that, but it's at least theoretically possible that another penalty could have been taken there. Still, in 3 of 5 games against Texas, Askarov allowed 3+ goals. In 3 of the 5 games against Manitoba in the previous round, Askarov allowed 3+ goals. Giving up 3+ goals here to Coachella Valley in 3 of the games is probably not going to be a recipe for success. And handing them a freebie, once or twice in the series because you decided to play cowboy, also not going to be a recipe for success. If Milwaukee wins this series, it's because Askarov, makes all of the Milwaukee fans, Nashville fans, coaches, broadcasters keep their heartburn medication in their pockets. Last, Milwaukee wins this series. If Milwaukee wins this series, it's because Cole Schneider returns to the lineup. The Admirals do have a veteran problem. They currently have 7 veteran status players in the roster, and for those of you that are unfamiliar with this, you are only allowed to ice 5 players that have played north of 260 professional games, whether that's European Elite League, AHL, or NHL, and one of them has to be fewer than 320 games played, if I remember the rule correctly. Sarah, that sound right to you? I know
Sounds
260
accurate.
is the correct number. It's one under 320 that always trips me up.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, there are 7 of those players that qualify that are currently in the mix for the Admirals roster. That is Schneider, Jankowski, McCarron, Angelo, Gravel, McEwen, and Thompson. 2 of them have to sit each game. Keaton Thompson and Kevin Gravel are both lefties, so rotating them in and out is kind of easy to figure out that place in the lineup. So that's 1 down. But Schneider's the team captain and has been the team captain for the last 2 regular seasons. He also led the team in goals this year in the regular season with 25. I cannot in my heart of hearts believe that Carl Taylor is sitting out his team's captain and leading scorer in the regular season in crucial playoff games so that he can play, checks notes, Anthony Angelo or Michael McCarron. Like, either Cole Schneider is injured enough to not be able to go, or Carl Taylor needs a psychiatric intervention. Those are your choices here. Cole Schneider is so important to this Admirals team success, the entire power play is structured differently in his absence. Milwaukee runs the typical 1-3-1 power play with him in the lineup, with Schneider in the net front spot. Without him in the lineup, they have kind of experimented with what looks a bit like the old school overload power play you saw in EA Sports games that no one really ran from like 2010 onward. But don't worry, EA Sports is so up to date that NHL 2019 still had it. But there's no real bumper in that the way that Milwaukee is kind of conceptualizing a power play without Cole Schneider. They kind of basically put guys to the outside and then one at the net front and have like a somewhat floating bumper. It's not really been the most effective for them. They went 1 for 6 on the power play in 2 games without Cole Schneider. But it's very clear to me that the Admirals are a better team with Schneider on their power play and in their lineup instead of in the press box and the trainer's room. So whatever is ailing him, his presence is missed. And if Milwaukee is going to win this series, it's very going to likely need to see an appearance from him in it. Last but not least is our X factor for the series. And our X factor is always something that will put its thumb on the scale one way or the other and tip the scales for one side or the other. And in this series, it's the ultimate X factor of X factors, momentum. In the playoffs so far, both teams have shown the ability to put up offense in bunches. Here are the number of times that both sides have scored multiple consecutive goals in under 5 minutes of game time in the playoffs so far. Coachella Valley, 8 times in 13 games. Milwaukee, 5 times in 10 games. Both teams have also managed to clap back when scored on as well. Here are the number of times each team has answered a goal against with a goal of their own in under 5 minutes of game time in the playoffs so far. Coachella Valley, 10 times in 13 games. Milwaukee, 4 times in 10 games. Both teams are also very good when scoring the first goal. Coachella Valley is 6-0, Milwaukee is 5-1. Both are good at closing out games when leading after 2 periods. Both teams combined to be 11-0. Coachella is 6-0, Milwaukee is 5-0. Momentum is a difficult thing to measure, but I think we can all agree it exists and its impacts are felt even if we haven't found a way to quantify it just yet. Both Milwaukee and Coachella Valley are good at seizing on momentum and either erasing leads or springboarding themselves into one. Both are good at making sure the other side doesn't seize on momentum by answering goals with goals. Both sides feel like they can break a game open at any time with even the tiniest of mistakes and turn that into not just one center ice faceoff, but multiple. Whichever side can harness that momentum and ride the wave the best, they're going to be able to tip the scales of this series in their advantage and go to the Calder Cup finals. That is why momentum is our X factor. All right, Sarah, brass tacks. I'm going to let you pick first since I just talked for like 10 straight minutes. Who do you got in this series and why?
All right, so I will admit that I still find it mildly concerning that Coachella Valley keeps taking the whole series to finish things out. Understandable against Calgary. I think that we all thought that series was going to go 5 games, but I'm still kind of troubled by the Tucson and Colorado series. It seems like the team has just had a hard time closing out games, a hard time closing out the series. I'd like to see them put their foot down when they have the opportunity to close things out, and they haven't always been able to do that. That said, they fought hard against Calgary in some truly wild games. The reinforcements of Cartier, Frodin, and Podorowski make it hard to bet against them, and ultimately I think that they are the better team than the Admirals. So I'm not betting against the Firebirds here. I'm picking them to win.
For me, these are two very good teams that play a bit of a similar style. Both are loaded with NHL caliber talent, whether that's veterans like Max McCormick or Kiefer Sherwood or prospects like Ty Cartier or Luke Evangelista. Both defend well and can play basically any style of game and come out on top. Two things shift the balance for me here. One is the home ice atmosphere. You want an arena that can come alive and give their team energy when their team is tired, empower them to dig deep and win games that are close and tight. Coachella has that. Milwaukee does not. The other is goaltending I trust to be consistently solid. And at the beginning of the playoffs, that was not Joey Decord. That is now Joey Decord, as he's shown through these playoffs that he is, quote-unquote, that guy. Yaroslav Askarov, while incredibly talented, has shown the wild card bitches side of his game far too often for my liking. And, well, far too often for the liking of the heart health of the Admirals and Predators fan base. I think this is another closely contested series and hopefully, fingers crossed, a high-flying back and forth north-south entertaining one. But I too am taking the Firebirds here. The model at least seems to think that this is going to be, down to the razor's edge. Coachella Valley is a 51.1% favorite to win the series here. So it is coming down once again to a lot of, small things. But I think the Firebirds come out ahead here. It wouldn't surprise me to see this go 7. All right, Sarah, we have a start bench ship for the first time in these playoffs. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. So we actually have 4 start bench ships that are all related. We'll get to the first one, and you'll probably be able to figure out the next from there. So we are looking at playoff MVPs so far. We're down to 4 teams. Let's start with Hershey. Start bench ship, Alexi Protas, Sam Annis, or Hunter Shepard as Hershey's playoff MVP. Sarah, go.
I'm going to start Hunter Shepard. I think you don't get where you're at without a goaltender who does their job very well for you. I don't know that I would have predicted him to be this good this season, but he has been, backstopping the Bears to this far in the series. I'm going to bench Sam Annis. I think that he has been fine, but maybe not quite the level of play we've seen from him in years past, but, he gets the job done. We are shipping Mr. Protas there.
As much as I have been a critic and as much as I still don't believe in him overall, I'm starting Hunter Shepard here as well. He has been the sole most consistent, and yes, I know I saw game 1. He has been the most consistent performer for the Bears this postseason, and to me that matters. I still have questions and still am skeptical, but he's still making saves and doing the job, and that's all you can ask of your goaltender at this point. I'm going to bench Alexi Protas. I think he's taken some really important strides this season. He scored some big goals. It's a razor thin piece between him and Sam Annis, who is on his line and has also been incredibly productive. But I think Protas brings a little more completeness at this point in his career than Sam Annis does. That's why I'm shipping Sam Annis here. Still an amazing player. I don't understand how they don't utilize him more effectively on the power play. I tweeted out from our account covering the game last night about Hershey's power play. If you want to go check that out, I stand by that take. I don't understand how they don't use Sam Annis better, but I'm shipping him to the theoretical coast here. All right, next up, Rochester playoff MVP. We have Yuri Kulik, Lawrence Pilet, and Michael Marish. I will go first, and Sarah, you went first last time. I don't know how you start anyone besides Yuri Kulik here. He has been the straw that stirs the Amerks offensive drink. He's been everything you could have hoped for in a player of his draft pedigree. And what more is there to say than that? He scores big goals. He has the longest current point streak and has done every time he's on the ice, I am benching Michael Marish. But he is the heart and soul of that team, and it's very obvious. It's easier to see when he is scoring goals, but even when he's out there doing the small things, he is still very much like the team goes where he goes and does what he says to do. I'm shipping Lawrence Pilet. He's come up big in important moments, but he's also gotten burned a couple of times in the D zone, and that matters to me. Sarah, what say you?
Copy paste done. I'm right there with you on all of these. Yeah, I don't know how you look at this team and think like, oh, if we just got rid of Yuri Kulich, like it'd be fine. It'd be fine. No, it would not be fine. He has really proven himself to be everything that the Sabres organization hoped that they were getting with him. So starting him, Michael Mersch, same reasons. He is like you said, the heartbeat of this team. I'm familiar with him from his days in Ontario and I guess previously Manchester Monarchs when that was the thing. And obviously didn't work out for him in the Kings organization, but he was very important to those Reign teams and Monarchs teams. In terms of leadership, in terms of just being that guy. And yeah, you'd like to see him get on the score sheet a little more, but I think he brings more than just that. And yeah, we've got to ship someone. So there we go.
All right. Next up, Milwaukee playoff MVP. Sarah, what say you between Luke Evangelista, Jordan Gross, and Kiefer Sherwood?
This is tough. I'm going to start Luke Evangelista. I feel like this has been, in general, kind of a coming out season for him. He had some experience before, but I think he's really shown people what he can do this year. He has been in on some key moments in the playoffs so far for Milwaukee, and I just really like seeing him elevate his game this year. We're going to bench Jordan Gross. Like it's close. Like he has also been very instrumental for this team. Anytime you're looking at plays, he's usually involved in it and has been, just really solid for them. It hurts to ship Kiefer Sherwood because he has also been great in terms of, just his contributions, veteran leadership, all those things. But that's the rules of the game, and one of them has to go.
I'm going to play a little bit of a wild card here. I am going to start Jordan Gross.
All right.
I think that he doesn't always do the sexiest parts of creating offense, but a lot of the things that Milwaukee is able to do in transition and attack off the rush are because they have Jordan Gross either starting the play, starting the transition, jumping into transition, and acting as a fourth forward, and basically allowing them to just walk through the neutral zone because there aren't enough people to cut off all the passing lanes, and they have to account for Jordan Gross. I think his presence on the ice changes the dynamic of what Milwaukee is able to do. And yes, it doesn't always end up on the score sheet, but it allows them to do things that other defensemen in their lineup just don't. And I think of all of them, he is the least replaceable in terms of what he brings to the table. Like, yeah, is Luke Evangelista stupid good? Is Kiefer Sherwood stupid good? Yeah. But if they were out of the lineup, you could at least find someone else to plug into their spot and be a facsimile of what they do on the ice. Nobody else does what Jordan Gross does on this team, I don't think. I am going to bench Luke Evangelista. Very close between him and Kiefer Sherwood in my mind. They are neck and neck, even though they play different style of games. Sherwood has done a fantastic job of coming in and not feeling like he was lacking chemistry with this team. Evangelista the same, but I'm a much bigger fan of guys who can just crank pucks into the net, and that's been Luke Evangelista. Sherwood's still very crafty, has a lot of sleight of hand in his game, as it were. But I appreciate both of them, but I appreciate Luke Evangelista just a little bit more So that's why he makes it to the bench and Sherwood makes it to the coast. And last but not least, your Coachella Valley playoff MVP between Joey Decord, Cole Lind, and not Max McCormick, Riker Evans. Max McCormick's had a great postseason, but that's Riker Evans' erasure, and I will not stand for it. Sarah, what say you?
Well, much like my pick with Hershey, I'm going with the goaltender here as well, Joey Decord. As we talked about earlier in the show, he kind of took a little while to warm up in the playoffs, and we had some questions earlier in the rounds, but he has absolutely stepped it up. Has just been able to stand up in key moments in this in that last series to keep Coachella Valley in it. So he is going to be my MVP here. This is when I hate the rules of this game, because I don't want to have to ship either of these guys because they're both having really great. I would like to object to the rules of this game, but I can't. I'm gonna bench Cole Lind. I want to start all of them. They've all been good. Cole Lind has been, I think he leads the team in scoring in the playoffs. Like, he's just been very good. He's just been good. And I hate having to erase Riker Evans because he has also been very good in key moments in this series. Scored that game winner in that ridiculous game. But there are rules. And if I don't abide by the rules, Sean is going to kick me off of the podcast.
Yeah, your objection is noted and overruled. If only I had the gif of the judge from My Cousin Vinny. That's well thought out and well pointed out. Overruled. I am starting Joey Decord, which is a statement I cannot believe I am making after last season. Like, I know we harped on it a lot, and I feel like those takes were justified. They are not anymore. Joey Decord has erased all doubts as to his mettle in the playoffs. He has looked every bit the part of number one goaltender. I don't know how well that goes in the Seattle organization in terms of a pipeline to the NHL. As I still think the Kraken are going to put Chris Drieger over him until it becomes glaringly apparent that that's not correct. And with goaltending, you never know. But for right now, Joey Decord is 100% the MVP of the Coachella Valley playoff run thus far. I don't know that it's all that close. Mm-hmm. I'm going to bench Cole Lind here. I know we talked about Riker Evans' erasure. He belongs in this conversation. That's the erasure I'm not having. He belongs in this conversation. I'm taking Cole Lind here for one simple reason. I think it means more to Cole Lind's journey to be here than it does for Riker Evans to this point in their respective careers. Cole Lind has bounced around a lot. He has been undercounted. He has been written off by at least one NHL organization. And to see him come here and thrive under Dan Bylsma and to be, the guy for them in the playoffs right now, I think that means a lot to him, and it means a lot to where his career is and where his mind is. And to me, I want to see that rewarded, even if it is in the most trivial way possible of being between the bench and the ship options here. I'm going to give Cole Lind that grace. Riker, I love you. You've been fantastic in these playoffs. Much like Jordan Gross, you do a lot of those little things that don't always end up with you on the score sheet or look sexy on replays, but they make sure that the ice stays tilted in the favor of your team. But like I said, you being, the younger, prospect of the two of you and Cole Lind, I decided to give him the nod over you. We're going to ship you to the coast. All right, Sarah, that is all we have for Start Bench Ship. Let us get out of here at a reasonable hour. We are actually going to get out of here before midnight on the East Coast. Sarah, take us home.
We win at podcasting. A+ to us. That is it for today's show. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. The Calder Farmstead is a part of the Full Press Radio Network. You can listen to this and several other great hockey, sports, and sports entertainment programs, all at www.fullpresscoverage.com. Just click the podcast drop-down menu in the top right portion of the website and enjoy.
And if you guys are enjoying the Calder Farmstead, please make sure you subscribe so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Our, playoff previews are coming out pretty much day of game one. So if you're catching them later in the week, well, they're probably not as relevant anymore, so you should subscribe so you get them right away. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Amazon, please rate and review the podcast. Or if you're not listening on one of those, it's the same podcast everywhere. I promise. You can go rate and review on those other sites, even if that's not your primary podcast place. If you're watching on YouTube, like the video, comment what you think of the episode. All of these things helps other people find the show, and your reviews help us improve it. And they're free. They cost you nothing to do that for us. We appreciate it. You can also follow the show on social media at Calder Farmstead on Twitter and at the Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. Links to all of that and more can be found at our link tree, which is linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. Big thanks to Adrian Drake, who made our theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_dysfunction. That's AD_DYSFUNCTION, so he can make music for you too. Sarah, where can the people find you?
My name is Sarah Avampato, and you can find me representing Full Press Hockey on Twitter at Right Said Sarah. That's WRITE, said Sarah with an H. You can check out my writing at Full Press Hockey, where I talk about the Ontario Reign, or over at Canes Country, where I talk about the Chicago Wolves. Sean, where can people find you?
I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at Sean O'Brien81. That's SeanObrien81. I'm also on Instagram at Sean O'Brien_81. Both are personal accounts. My Twitter is mostly hockey. My Instagram is not as used that often, and it's mostly pictures of my adorable dog, whose birthday is today. So if you want to wish her a happy birthday, that's a thing you can do. But for the most part, yeah, that's my social media. You can find all of my stats work, including the money puck style graph, the game probabilities, all of those other charts that you can look at. There are like 25 of them now at this point, I think. So you can find that on my Tableau page. Easiest way to find that is at bit.ly/data-dump-and-chase, all lowercase, all one word. Thank you for tuning into the show. For Sarah Avampato, I am Sean O'Brien, and I will remind you, as always, please dump and chase responsibly.